Hello and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time, well, Sojiro and Alice went to the church to check up on Aoko after her battle with Toko, and oh man, she was in a really bad state. I think she was pretty much like undistinguishable from the actual Aoko or something. It was shown off screen, but she was injured everywhere, disemboweled and everything. But it seems before that we actually met with I think it was Father I forgot his name. He had black hair and he honestly looked kind of suspicious. Don't know really too much about him. I want to say it was Father Irie or Eri, but I don't really remember. Yeah, afterwards, Aoko had a conversation with Alice, and then Aoko had a conversation with Sojiro, where Sojiro really just questioned a lot of like why is she doing this, and was actually kind of stunned by her answer when she said that the person watching you the most is yourself. There's always someone watching. And yeah, he left the room, and now we're here. So we're gonna continue. By evening, only Sojiro remained in the chapel. He sat alone at the end of the pew, slouching helplessly like a guilty believer ready to confess. The chilly air seeped through the walls, turning breath to mist. The frigid air stole the heat from the body without mercy. Sojiro looked around at the chapel's tall ceiling and spacious hall. The room made the air feel colder somehow. Unsure of what to do with himself, he stared into space. His thoughts were entirely unfocused. First and foremost, he could not understand what the buzzing sensation was in his chest. Time passed by, no answers came. To onlookers, he must have seemed deep in thought, or in deep sleep, like he would turn to stone if left be. Either way, he clearly looked down. The problem was his lack of awareness, not that he was aware of it, of course.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's the father. Sojiro raised his head and turned to wherever the voice came from. Stood before the altar was the man from the last night, dressed in a priestly garbs. How long had he been standing there? Sound reverberated dryly throughout the chapel hall. Sojiro did not have the strength to stand, let alone leave. He just stared at the approaching shadow.
この教会に精霊なんていませんけどね。ここ座りますがよろしいですか?
Hey, this is your home, not mine. The priest pointed at Sojiro's pew. Without waiting for an answer, he took a seat at the opposite end.
改めて挨拶を。
Eri, okay.
私は文塚エイリ。
エイリ。
この教会の何なんでしょうかね。書類の上では持ち主になるんでしょうか。エイリ神父と呼んでください。あなたは静木宗十郎くんですか。なるほど。確かにユイカには見えない。
Father Eri, I don't know how I'm going to pronounce this. I'm just going to call it Father Eri. Father Eri spoke in a gentle but uninvested tone. He was a thorough egoist. Sojiro knew all too well about people who spoke this way. The individual who cared for him when he first came down from the mountains was one of them. Sojiro glanced across at him apathetically. Father Eri seemed unfazed by the lack of direction to the conversation.
少し君と話がしたいのですが、よろしいでしょうか?
Sojiro responded with a nod. Father Eri replied with an artificial smile.
青子が心配のようですね。
別に律香さんにもそう聞かれましたけど、青崎の心配はしていないんです。
Sojiro stared straight ahead as he answered, his voice sounding uncharacteristically weak and unsure.
けど、今はずっと彼女のことが気にかかっている。それがなんだかわからなくて、さっきから考えてる最中です。
簡単ですよ。君は単に青子に嫉妬しているのです。
Oh, envy. With those few words, Sojiro snapped out of his funk. He clapped his hands and turned towards the priest.
そっか。俺は単に青崎が羨ましかっただけなんだ。
Wow, problem was solved very quickly.
いや、でもそれは困るな。
That can't be good.
自分の中にそういうところがあるなんて気づきもしなかった。
Father Eri did not respond to his confession, like ramblings.
それで話っていうのは何ですか？
いえ、話というより質問です。君は今まで山奥に住んでいたと聞きました。そこで一つどうしても気になることがあって。
気になることですか？
はい、おそらく今まで誰もあなたにこの手の質問をしなかったのでしょう。それはあなたが他人にその手の不安を感じさせないからです。実際私もそう思いますし。
Huh, you don't unnerve people around you.
ですからまあこれも縁ですし、私も肩書きがこれですしね。迷える子羊がいるんですから、それなりの務めを果たさないと後ろめたいというから。
I don't know. The last father of the last father priest person of the Nasuverse that I know. Oh, well, let's say that he did some terrible things. Father Eri looked at Sojiro placidly. His pupils were like black holes that could suck the soul out of your body.
おかしなことが気になるんですね。その質問というのは。
いえ、ごく自然の疑問ですよ。あなたはなぜ山から降りてきたのか。そこでなら君は幸福だったでしょうに。
That is a good question. I've thought about that before, but I never actually like asked it because he's always comparing things back to the mountains, but he's also like mentally kind of complaining about things back like in civilization. He's like, I don't get why they have this. It's so like things are just scary to him. But I feel like it's not too weird to want to leave the mountains and experience something new. Though I don't know if that seems like Sojo's character. Sojo was not sure what he had done, but it sounded as though the priest was accusing him of something. Then again, it was a reasonable question, if a little pointless. Sojo had no answer. Father Eri ignored the sullen boy and continued.
山での生活がいかに厳しいものかは私も人並みには知っています。若い頃ちょっとした手違いで遭難したこともありますしね。山での生活はこの上なく簡素です。何しろ生きること以外に時間を割く余裕がない。楽しむために生きるのではなく、生きるためにただ生きる。生活は必要最小限をさらに切り詰めたものとなっていく。
That is true. That is true.
山での生活に比べれば都市のあり方は楽園以外の何者でもないでしょう。ですが楽園の定義は人それぞれです。
Sojo still did not answer. His expression remained blank. The only sound was the priest's voice echoing around the chapel.
一粒の種の誕生すら喜びになる生活。電気の明かりがどれだけ暖かでも自然のままの厳しい寒さを君は尊んでいたはずです。なのになぜ降りてきたのですか。山にいれば君は幸せだったでしょう。
Father Eri repeated his question. Sojo's mouth remained firmly shut. Not because he did not want to answer, but because he simply did not know how to. All he knew was that even if he wanted to go back, he could not.
困ったものです。そこをはっきりさせないことにはいつまでも救いがない。故郷を捨てた理由もわからないのに旅先の土地を愛することなんてまっとうな人間にはできませんよ。
This guy's actually giving some deep advice that might be useful to Sojiro.
これは忠告ですが、すべてを無条件に肯定したところで幸福になれるとは限りません。あなたはもう少し自分の心を許してあげないと。
Sojiro could not make sense of what he was being told. Only the father's last words made an impression on him. What were the last words again? Be fairer to yourself. Oh yeah, being fairer to yourself is easier said than done, of course. And what that entailed, Sojiro was uncertain of.
そういえば。
Toko had mentioned something similar before, and it had impressed him. First her, now this priest. How could people know things that he hadn't even told them?
すごいですね。神父さんっていうのはみんなそうなんですか。
Sojiro said, curious as to where the weight on his shoulders had gone to. In a way, one of his strong points is the fact that his emotional scars do not show on the surface.
ええ、神父は悩みを暴くのが仕事ですから。ま、大抵は暴くだけで埋めるのに失敗するんですけどね。
Okay, he seems pretty cool so far. Sorry for doubting you so much. Still gonna hold a little bit of sauce, but
つまり相談事ですか？
そういうソフトなのも承っています。私が解決できる悩みなどたかが知れているようですけど。
The priest shrugged, looking a little disconcerted. Granted, Sojiro still did not trust Father Eri at all, but at that moment, anyone was a ray of light in his eyes.
じゃあたかが知れた程度の悩みを聞いてもらえますか？
君が青子をなぜ羨むかですね。
It was as though the priest could see into the boy's soul with his serene eyes.
まあそういうことです。自分でもどうしてそう思うのかがわからない。でもあなたならそれを知ってそうだ。
知りませんけど、まあ無責任に答えましょうか。それはおそらくあなたには根拠がないからですよ。
Lack of foundation.
自分の色がないと例えた方が正確ですが。
Sojiro squinted, trying to understand the priest's complicated yet concise answer.
ほら、そこです。君に優れた部分があるとしたら、その順応性です。山という異界から町に降りて、一人で暮らしていけたこと。ようやく慣れた常識の中で、青子たちという非常識と関わっても暮らしていけたこと。そうであると努めているにしても、あなたの順応性は際立っている。
True.
原因は知りませんが、君には初めから自我というものが第一に現れてはいないのです。
The ego.
何事にも対応できるものの、種に交わるほど器用でもない。強いて言うのなら、色の乗っていない空白ですかね。風景に溶け込む自然さは素晴らしい人徳ですが、自我がないということは居場所がないということですから。
So he is a lost lamb.
いいことばかりじゃありません。ユイカにまで見えないというのは予想以上でしたが姿なき精霊すら捉えるあれが見えなかったのですから、君の無欲ぶりも筋金入りだ。
Lack of greed. As if amused by something, Father Eri grinned. However, Sojiro understood neither the meaning of his smile nor his words.
憶測に過ぎませんが、青子はあなたを見て反感を覚えたと思いますよ。
Damn, he nailed it again.
自分のないあなたは自己を押し通してきた彼女にとって認めがたいものだったでしょうから。そして同時にあなたは青子に自分ではどうしても手に入れられないものを見てしまった。言葉にするとくだらない表現になりますが、そういうことです。先ほどは嫉妬と言いましたが、それは訂正しましょう。君は青子に、いや、いいです。
What? In fact, you?
言葉にするのはそれこそ野暮だ。
No, tell me. Father Eri smiled gently. It was a fresh-faced grin that belied his age. Whenever it came to Aoko, he seemed to forget his role as a priest. But that was irrelevant to Sojiro.
神父さん、それで結局自分は青子のどこら辺に憧れてるんですか？
Sojiro responded to Father Eri's ramblings by being direct. Some would say that the priest had been direct himself, but this was Sojiro, and he needed things spelled out.
今のでもわからないと参りましたね。こういうことは言葉を尽くすほど実感が湧かないものですが、まあ私も神父と呼ばれる身です。少し切り口を変えて代弁してみましょう。
Change of tact. Huh.
あなたは青子の過去を知っていますか？
詳しくは知りません。 高校デビューとかおかしな言葉を口にしてましたけど。
全く知らないということですね。いいでしょう。ではしずきくん、虐待のない例え話ですが、
Okay, something more abstract.
君は突然自殺しろと言われて従えますか？
Whoa, that's whoa.
自殺ですか？
そう、自殺です。神父である私が口にしていいことではありませんが、まあ私は格好だけなのでいいでしょう。
Yeah, I'm a priest, but not really.
青子はね、近いことを求められたのです。15歳の時に。
I wonder if this is like someone telling her to, commit suicide, or if it was someone telling her to accept the true magic, which would get rid of her humanity. It's probably the latter, because it was 2 years ago, which is also when she became the inheritor of the Aozaki magic.
彼女がそれまで積み重ねてきた努力も希望も過去も未来も全て捨てること。
Oh
今日か
no!
らお前は違う生き物として生きろと。
I think it's just about being a magician, because she went from being like a normal high school girl to just having to throw all that away to being a magician.
どうです？それは自己の抹消。未来の死と同じだと思いませんか？
His words fit what Aoko had said about her past. Until middle school, she led a normal life. Then out of the blue, she became the family heiress in place of her sister. Becoming a magician meant casting aside the life she had known. She had to leave behind her ambitions and prospects and live the life of a mage, something she barely knew anything about. Her life up to that point had taught her that everything from then on would bring her misery. Aoko's grandfather was not the forceful type. Your sister has failed. Now it's your turn, he had said. Did Aoko resist? Sojo could not begin to imagine. All he had knew was that she could not be happy with the hand that she was dealt with. We haven't seen this Aoko in a while. This was when she first met Sojiro. This might be the first time we saw her like full portrait, like her full body or like her face. Even if the life of a magician was attractive, to believe that the possibility that Aoko could give up her lifestyle up to that point was not to know her at all. Aoko Aozaki put her all into everything. She had probably achieved a lot in those 15 years. Her achievements and prospects were no doubt enough to make anyone jealous. But did she have the conviction to throw those away, to go back to square one? And square one did not come close to the reality of it. The future she had envisioned for so long would have been obliterated.
青子はどうしたんですか？
いやー、これがもう全くの頑固者でして。
She's trying to do both.
立ち会った私でさえどうかと思うぐらい簡単にうなずきました。震える指を懸命に握り込んでやってやろうじゃないと見栄を切ってね。
That sounds like Aoko, alright.
彼女は祖父の期待や青崎の責任感からではなく、逃げることを嫌って魔術師の道を取ったんですよ。
That really sounds like Aoko, alright.
拒むことは逃げではないのでしょうが、青子にはそう思えたんでしょう。逃避という行為はこれまでの自分の時間を否定することになると。
And I really like Aoko and Sojiro as the main two characters of this game. Because I really just like Aoko, even though she can be kind of... What's the right word? Abusive. Yeah, very abusive to Sojiro. But she's very strong. And she's not like physically or magically, but she is very tied to her convictions. And she will do what she sets out to do. And she will not change. I think that makes her just very powerful and really... I don't know, I just really like that. And Sojiro was a very nice contrast to her. Because he kind of accepts everything. He's the opposite, where he isn't really too strong in his convictions. He's just kind of there to accept everything that happens and live with it. And they make a really good contrast, and it makes a really funny pairing. I'll talk more about this whenever the game ends. I don't know how much longer this game is, but I feel like we're definitely getting to the thick of things.
今までの自分を嘘にしてしまうのなら、今までの生活に別れを告げることを青子は選んだのです。まあ、極端ではありますが、あれは前に進むためなら全てを捨てられる人間なんです。
In the name of progress. An affectionate smile crossed Father Aries' face. Rather than signaling his closeness to Aoko, he conveyed the pride of a guardian.
ですが、私も思い違いをしていました。結局はそうなるように、青子は育てられていたのです。
Was raised to be a mage all along?
彼女の祖父は、瞳子が家を出ることも、青子が跡継ぎを了解することも読んだ上で、あの二人を育ててきた。
Huh.
形だけですが、私も神父としてさすがにそれはどうかと思いましてね。柄にもなく青子を説得したものです。
I like how he's like, as a priest, only a name.
祖父の思い通りになることはありません。なんなら私とメキシコあたりに逃げませんかと。
Mexico, let's
し
go.
かしまあ、躊躇なく振られました。
You see, if you challenged her to go to Mexico, that might have been a different story.
その時の彼女の返答は今でも一言一句覚えています。
だって私一人がどんなに泣き叫んでも今の状況は変わらないんでしょ。私にしかできないなら正面から受けて立つ。たとえ不本意で突然投げ込まれた川の中でだってできることはあるはずだもの。
Oh man, that's a little bit too close now.
逃げるなんてのは最後の最後。それまではせいぜい華麗に踊ってやるわ。
Hear me roar! The priest recited her words as if recalling lines from a favorite play. It certainly seemed like something that she would say. The last thing Aoko said in the room she was recovering in probably meant the same. Of course, when an audience is watching you, you want their approval. However, approval must come from within first. Aoko worked to feel proud of herself before she worried about how others viewed her. She at least wanted to do her job with grace. In response to everything she had lost, she would hang in there, even if it meant going it alone. Going it or going at it? As for why Sojiro envied her, well, that was obvious. Hell, I envy her. To Sojiro, she had lived life with her head held high. He was a boy who accepted everything, but had nothing. She was a girl who threw it all away, but she never lost a thing. He stood in the meeting room alone, seeing the ugliness within him and the sublime outside. Looking back, he finally realized what was eating at him.
もういいでしょう。君は青子の容姿に感じ入ったのではなく、青崎青子という生き方に感じ入ったのです。
The realization. Has he fallen in love with Aoko now?
ま、青子は青子で、れっきとした美人ですが。
Sojiro nodded. From the day he first met her, that was indeed how he had felt. It just took him till now to realize it. The strength in her eyes and her unwavering will had captured his heart.
なんかすごい汗我慢だ。
Wow, this priest really gave him some good advice. Especially like very, very like suited for Sojiro.
本当に小娘のくせにギネス級の頑固さです。
I like this frame. Father Aries spoke from the heart. Sojiro raised his head, gave him a small grin, and scratched his cheek. So many hours wasted brooding like an idiot. A part of him still felt strange, but it didn't bother him to leave the question unsolved for now. Unable to stay still, he stood up. He couldn't care less about the Aozaki family, mage battles, or Aoko rushing off to her death. Right now, he just wanted to see her face. She's probably gone already.
お待ちなさい。病室は立ち入り禁止です。
The cold words echoed around the chapel. They reached Sojiro as if he was about to head back to They reached Sojiro as he was about to head back to Aoko. The sightless sister must have been waiting by the altar. She moved quickly to block his path.
ゆいかさん、今、病室には入れないんですか？
はい。しばらく人よけをしてほしいと、クオンジ様からことづかっています。
I wonder what they're cooking up.
アリスが。
Sojiro was suspicious of why Alice would have said that. He could understand it being kept out if Aoko was being treated, or her condition had worsened, but this seemed different. Besides, Aoko herself said that her treatment had finished.
人がいいのですね、シスターユイカは。そんな方便をしなくてもいいんですよ。はっきり言ってあげればいい。今から病室に行っても無駄です。と。
Oh, she told him that to make him stay outside, thinking that they would still be there so he wouldn't leave. But now that he knows it's empty, that they've already gone, he might chase after them.
青子はとっくに出発しているんですから。
エイリ神父。
The priest began to explain everything from the pew. He said, he's still sad. Giza got him. About the things he and Sojiro had spoken about. And why he, a stranger, would be so concerned about a person he knew nothing about. It all became clear to Sojiro.
初めからそのつもりだったんですね。
Sojiro's voice was full of anger, but Father Eri did not flinch.
申し訳ありません。青子にあなたの保護を頼まれたもので。
It's true, yeah.
彼女の準備が整うまでの時間稼ぎでしたが、私があなたと話をしたかったのは事実ですよ。
I knew that she was gonna leave already. The priest's attempt to smooth things over was far from sincere. Sojiro gritted his teeth to control his rage. Sorry, again, it looked like he was crying because of the marker at the end of the sentence. Why had they not stopped Aoko and Alice from heading towards certain death? Because both the nun and priest were of the same ilk as the mages. As such, they understood Aoko's decision, and the priest understood Aoko too. Even if he did have the power to stop her, he would not have. The Aoko Aozaki he knew was not about to hide away in a church and lick her wounds.
アリスは
青子と行きましたよ。あれから30分は過ぎていますね。
Father Eri even went far as to divulge the time. 30 minutes ago, the same time the priest had reared his head. It would not even take half that long to get to the school from here. Then another 10 minutes or less to get to Misaki's highest old school building from there. So they've probably already arrived and started fighting. Sojiro turned to the entrance of the chapel. However,
待ちなさい。どこへ行くつもりですか？
the sound of her voice stopped him in his tracks. An unseen pressure had locked him in place. Her admonition seemed to carry a spellbinding power, stopping the foolhardy boy where he stood.
あなたは魔術師同士の争いを知りません。
I was about to say, how did she do that? Did she have mystic eyes? Okay, never mind.
何の助力にもならないばかりか、彼女たちの足かせになるだけです。彼女たちが命を落とすのは彼女たちの業によるもの。望むままに傷つけ合えばいいでしょう。
I mean, it doesn't matter. He's already a part of it, so whether he goes or not, he's going to die.
あなたのような何の咎もない若者が教示に立ち会うことはありません。
She spoke with a quiet anger. Her contempt was not directed at Aoko or Alice, though, but Sojiro for being so eager to waste his life.
何かしら希望があるのなら私も止めはしません。ですがこの件は別です。あなたが言っても彼女たちが助かることはありません。
That makes sense. She was right. It would be pointless of him to go. At the amusement park, he had been useless in the end. Now they faced something even worse. He couldn't even imagine how he might contribute this time. He wasn't
一定
useless.
しますが、青崎青子は祖父に護身術を教え込まれています。魔術以外でもあなたより腕は立つ。その彼女もあの使い魔が相手では勝負にならない。
Sojiro's physical strength, his only edge, meant nothing. If he went now, he would only get in their way. Yuika was correct. And yet,
でも行かないと。青子には返さなくちゃいけない借りがあります。
I don't know about that. He spoke calmly, but firmly. Though almost moved, the sister frowned slightly. She felt bad for him, but her warning was for his own good. If he would not listen to reason, then she would have to make him sleep. She raised the finger of binding at
そ
Sojiro.
れを言うなら返したい借りがあるですよ。それとシスターユイカ、教会内での魔術は控えてくださいね。
I love how they had to like show his eyes and then the glasses shinged.
使うのなら筆跡に留めてもらわないと私の査定に響きます。まったくおとなしそうに見えて律香君より短気なんですから、あなたは。
Where is she, by the way?
エイリ神父。しかし
行かせてあげればいいじゃないですか。それともあなたはやはり青子たちに退場してほしいと。
There's a lot of harm in letting him go. He's gonna die, but you know, he's gonna die anyways. I guess there is no harm.
その問題と彼の献身は別の話です。改めなさい、しずきさん。あなたが言っても何もできはしないのですから。
Use the power of the mountains. The truth of the sentiment cut Sojiro deep. Oh, statement. But despite everything that was being said, his mind was made up. It had always been. Even if he was not certain, he would at least not hesitate. He had always followed his instincts to the end, no matter where they took him.
分かっています。でも行かないと。ここにいたら本当に何もできない。
His heart burned in his chest. While he listened to the priest talk, he could only think of seeing Aoko. Aww. He was not worried. He did not want to help. He just wanted to see her. He would figure out what came next once he got there.
ほら、献身なんて考え自体が間違ってるんです。足を引っ張ると言いますが、どのみち青子たちに勝ち目はないんでしょ。なら彼がマイナスになってもいいじゃないですか。どうせ破産するなら豪快に破産すれば。
Better to burn out in a blaze of glory. Here comes your boy Sojiro. Woo!
神父。
It's like, dude, are you serious?
ほら宗十郎くん、言って言って。シスター、今のあなたの返事で心が折れましたから。
Go while she still like moved.
足動くでしょ。
As soon as the priest pointed at Sojiro, he could move again. The pressure weighing on his shoulders lifted, along with the fear in his heart. Could he help? Would he expose Aoko and Alice to more danger? All such doubts had vanished.
行きます。縁が残っていればまた。
はい。なんであれ、後悔のない一日を。
And with that, Sojiro began to run as Father Eri watched him with a look of satisfaction. I mean, I know I was being really sus of him, and I'm still a little bit like, give or take 20% sus, but that was a really good moment with Father Eri. The priest knew that if he could not persuade Aoko, he could not convince Sojiro either. He watched the impetuous boy run away. As the blind nun listened to his footsteps fade into the distance, Yuka was different from Sojiro and the priest. While she showed no mercy to corruption or self-righteousness, she embraced benevolence to the innocent. Such an ordinary boy with his life ahead of him, and yet he chose to follow heretics into hell. Oh yeah, mages would be considered heretics, especially witches.
最悪ですね、エイリ神父。分別のつかない子供を導くのが責任のある大人だと思いましたが。
She made no effort to hide her biting disapproval. It was simply her way of showing concern for the boy. Father Eri shrugged.
だからいろいろと間違えていますよ、シスターユイカ。責任のある大人なんて言葉自体がおかしい。何が起きても責任を取る。それが正しい大人というものです。
Oh God. Okay. Once again, his glasses just went white. The rest went unspoken. It didn't matter to him which of them died. With a warm, goodly smile, the priest corrected the nun's misunderstanding. Oh, wow. Oh, that ended a lot earlier than I thought. Well, I think that mainly happened because last time I tried to fit in that last conversation with Sojiro and Aoko, which took a long time. So if you include like the last episode, it would have been around 2 hours, and I normally do 1 hour chunks. But you know, let's go to the next episode. Witch on the Holy Night, Part 2. I wonder if there's going to be a Part 3, or if this is going to be the last part. I believe this is Chapter 12. The golden wolf's ears stood pointed, twitching in response to the sounds around it. Its meal finished, it curled up into a ball in anticipation of nap time, and yawned, half from boredom. The old abandoned classroom had fulfilled its purpose many moons ago. For a month, the wolf had spent his time resting atop a heap of disheveled desks. His name was Lug Beowulf. He was a purebred werewolf, named after the sun at his birthplace, and a hero of legend upon leaving there. True. It goes without saying that he was not from this country. He came from a land deep within the European wilderness, surrounded by mountains, mountains, and forests. His homeland was a realm no human had ever stepped foot in. In their isolated world, forgotten by time, a diminishing race of werewolves lived in peace. This is where Beo first appeared. In a cave on the outskirts of their village, the werewolves found a child bearing the same golden coat as their ancestors. The child was sleeping soundly, as if in his natural habitat. The village welcomed their new member with open arms. 2,000 years of advancing civilization had been cruel to them. As the forests were destroyed, valleys unearthed, and the waters polluted, the werewolf birth rate dwindled. They are now facing one birth a decade. Oh my god. Their child's golden coat deviated from the typical gray or white and shared only by their ancestors, who were treated as gods, felt like a sign that their prayers had been answered. A bloodline in atrophy. The werewolves were forced to embrace change. This radiant child at least temporarily made them forget about their troubles. Alas, as time passed, their hopes turned to disappointment. The golden wolf was not their salvation. For some reason, Lug, that ray of golden sun, remained a child. Oh, decades passed, and still he did not grow. Forever young, immortal, cursed. He searched the village for his birth mother, but to no avail. He searched the village for someone who understood his plight, but to no avail. Over hundreds of years, he came to realize something. He was different, very different. Neither male nor female, neither strong nor weak. Ignorant of life and death, joy and fear. That thing's a spirit born of nature. Might look like us werewolves, but don't let that fool you. But the child himself needed not conjecture to know his own true nature. He was perfect, and therefore he was alone. To the golden wolf, the world was too small. That was why. Indeed, that was the very reason. He wanted to know what life was. He wanted to know loss. If he was all-powerful, he wanted to know the mystery behind his all-powerfulness. Because as it was, his existence was meaningless. The golden wolf was at a loss, as were the werewolves around him. They revered him, but at the same time, wanted nothing to do with him. Lug moved back to the cave where he was discovered in, and resigned himself to a life of seclusion.
太陽のルー？ルーガルじゃなくて？そりゃ面白い。偶然にしちゃできすぎだ。
Oh, and then one day, a quirky mage visited the village. How? How did you get there? It was in, like, thousands of years since people had gone there.
またガタガタとうるさい。トウコさんはあれだよね。派手好きなくせに豆だよね。
Said Lug was neither boy or girl, so, huh? From his place atop of the rubble, Beo peered into the hallway. He thought that his fussy master was busy dealing with Misaki City's ley lines, but she was engrossed in making traps. 1 month passed since they made the dilapidated building their makeshift workshop. Creating a new trap for intruders became a daily pursuit of Toko's.
安全を用意しておくなんて他の生き物は大変だ。
Having been like this since birth, knowing neither infancy nor dotage, he thought differently than others. For he was perfect from the day he was born. Never declining, never improving. As such, he had no comprehension of weakness. Childlike, fickle, and without morals, he had no concept of good and bad, as either a human or wolf. A beautiful creature disconnected from the world around him, he was on top of all other creatures. With one exception, his master Toko Aozaki. She showed him a sparkling, delicious world, and above all, he found her scent refreshing. To him, the world was divided into what was cool and what was not. Her preference in leisure pursuits were of no consequence to him, and he never took gender into account. The only thing that mattered to him was whether a person's life was logical, and therefore cool. Toko Aozaki had her faults, but she smelled good.
ベオ、昼食は済ませたか？
The evil music has come back. Bale's master entered the classroom, presumably done with her traps for the day. What? I kind of thought
夜
they...
が本番だ。それまであまりハメを外すなよ。
I thought they had like a equal relationship, not like master-servant. Sometimes, like now, she would nag at him, but on the whole, his master pleased him. In reality, the contract binding her to him was not particularly powerful. If he wanted to, he could tear it to pieces at any time. No human could restrain him. However, he had no intention of killing Toko in exchange for his freedom, and there was a reason for this. In order to move about freely in human society, he needed someone like her. As long as she did not offend him, he had no reason to rock the boat. However,
やっと本番か。待たせすぎだよ、トウコさん。
the promise that she had made him in his cave and the reality of their situation had begun to come apart at the seams.
来い。最高の神秘と戦わせてやる。
Oh, I wonder what that's gonna be. He was compliant up to now, but his patience was wearing thin. The fight with the newest magician last night was an enormous letdown.
そういうな。私も昨日は拍子抜けだったんだ。
Man, why her? She sucks.
いいけどね。実はあの子、使わないんじゃなくて、使えないだけじゃないの？
Yeah, they're probably talking about the true magic. His master's expression turned serious. Not in agreement at the wolf's question, though, where she had already asked herself the same and many other similar questions.
いや、使うぐらいなら死んだ方がマシなのかもな。
そんなバカなことがあるの？使わないと死んじゃう状態だったんだよ。
It wouldn't be the first time.
だから、そんなバカな考えが成立するぐらい。
Yeah, she'd be better off dying than to use it. Yeah, that's exactly what she was doing. That it must be too terrifying to use, Aoko finished in her head. She stopped short of voicing it and chuckled at her emotional outbursts.
どれほどのものか想像がつかないのは確かだ。だがまあ、根本は変わらないさ。魔法がどのような奇跡神秘の類であれ、魔術師である以上、青子に勝ち目はない。
As long as she remains a mage, she can't win. Huh. With those words, Bale's master walked out of the room, emphasizing that his role in all this was to face Aoko only at that very moment.
魔法ね。
The bored look in his eyes shifted. He recalled the taste of that girl, his long tongue sliding over his chainsaw-like fangs. Make no mistake, he would finish his meal. He was the oldest werewolf, the golden god of the forest. For as long as he could remember, no, from the moment he appeared, he had been the most powerful creature of all. All man-made mystics were trash before him. Magecraft was laughable, and mystic, artificial miracles, which even surpassed that which were superfluous, futile. Their very existence was an insult to him.
もちろん、 そういう契約だし、ちゃんと平らげはするけれど。
Time to dig in. That was the extent of their pact. Once he had dealt with this so-called true magic, he was free. Ah, yeah, it is. He's here to counter the true magic because he is a very powerful mystic. His eyes burned with the wolf inside him, his fangs maw twisting into a sadistic, beastly grin. Witch on the Holy Night 2. It was just past 7 p.m. Misaki High School's old building stood silently. While light came from the city reached in the area, the forest and mountains kept the area hushed. Nothing unusual. During winter vacation, the old building, now still covered in yesterday's snow, was rarely used. Without signs of life, such unused structures were mere monuments of what once was nothing more. The old school building would remain that way until the start of the new semester. Behind it, the vast forest grew darker by the minute. If the building had just died in under 2 weeks of vacation, what had become of the forest over the years? The wall of overgrown trees filtered out the noise of the city and most of the moonlight. An otherworldly realm had taken root, not even 2 miles away from town. Piercing the cold night air, footsteps crunched through the powdery snow.
この辺りに仕掛けはなさそうね。それで、どうするの？
The plan is I have no
このまま旧校舎
plan.
に忍び込む？まさか、私らがやってきたことなんてとっくにバレてるわ。
She's like, I know what she's thinking because she's thinking what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking what she's thinking.
隠れても意味はないし、何より敵のアジトに入ってどうするのよ。盗みが目的じゃないでしょ、今回は。後ろから切りつけるのは強盗というのじゃなくて？
Raw Pocket-san, go!
それができれば苦労はないんだけどね。まあ、忍者の真似事は私というかアリスの
You're
芸
that
風じゃないでしょ。
ninja.
そもそもやる気満々なのはこっちもあっちも同じってこと。
The wolf is just like, yes, they're here. The sound of their footsteps stopped in unison. The old forgotten Misaki High School building stood before them. What used to be the schoolyard was now a barren snowscape. Reclaimed by the forest, the building looked a shell of its former self. The surrounding trees resembled standing mourners at a funeral.
せっかちなお嬢さん方だ。タイムリミットまであと4時間はあるというのに。
Oh yeah, this is definitely the last night. Alone in the middle of the white altar was a lone, scarred red mage. As she came out from the forest, Aoko lowered herself slightly, scowling at her distant target. Next to her, Alice stood motionless. The bare branches of the trees cast long, thorny shadows. Aoko was reminded of the Sleeping Beauty, except this mage wasn't nearly as pleasant as the princess of that. Not to mention, she wasn't sleeping, and there was no prince. Regardless, this princess came out of her schoolhouse castle to greet her challengers.
その体で無理をして。
I really should not be moving.
あなたのそういうところ、姉としてどうかと思うわ、青子。
Bro, you put me in this condition. Toko grinned faintly. Aoko fought back the urge to respond. Meanwhile, Al stood in silence, uninterested in the sibling rivalry. Toko stood about 100 feet away. With her sense sharpened through the magecraft and the silence of the forest, they could hear each other perfectly. The golden wolf was nowhere to be seen. Toko faced the two girls alone. Alice's black overcoat and winter hat were typical items of clothing for a mage battle. A few paces in front of her was Aoko, whose combat garb was comparatively out of place, a Misaki High School uniform. She had asked Alice to bring a change of clothes for her, but there must have been some kind of misunderstanding. Though it was trivial miscommunication, Toko seemed to think that it had some special meaning.
ところで、始める前に一ついいかな。
Man, she really is in the middle of it.
気になって仕方がないし、この先機会もないだろうから聞くんだけど、あなたの戦闘服ってそれなの？
It's not my fault. Alice got this for me. Toko spoke clearly, and despite the distance, was able to communicate her deep-seated scorn without trouble. Aoko would rather attack than engage in small talk, but she decided to take the bait.
そんなわけないでしょ。今までこういう機会が多かっただけよ。数えるなら今日を含めて4回しかないわ。私はまだ現役だからそれも悪くはないかもしれないけど、いつか流行るでしょ、こういうのも。
Aoko was sure to emphasize her words. For a split second, Toko's eyes narrowed.
呆れたな。相変わらずのローセンスだ。
それはどうも。人形を実の妹に見立てる異常者にそう言われるなら、一周回って安心よ。
With that, the two fell silent and glared at each other. I'm kind of curious why they have like different hair color, different eye color, and honestly, like, I guess their facial structures and, you know, features are similar, but if I just looked at this, like right now, I would not have thought that they were siblings. But maybe a lot of it is artificial. Their bloodlust cut through the thick, cold air like a knife. We also know that Toko did something with her eyes, even though she naturally had a mystical eye of some sort. While the two of them sized each other up, Alice surveyed the area surrounding Toko. There was no indication that anyone or anything was lying in wait near her. Perhaps she should see if the werewolf was still in the old school building. Maybe Toko didn't feel like Aoko and Alice were much of a threat in their injured state. Or she was just not really expecting a counterattack so early, so the werewolf wasn't ready yet? After some contemplation, Alice surmised it was the former. She really was going to fight alone. Her arsenal comprised her mystic eyes and rune magecraft. That was more than enough to deal with Aoko and Alice in their current state. Alice, all I need is one shot. One opportunity. Aoko signaled to Alice behind her with the movement of her fingers. Or her finger. Alice had no objection. The original plan was for her to keep the werewolf busy. With the mirror as a backup, Aoko was hoping to catch Toko off guard. They had a few other cards up their sleeve, but the fact remained that, as mages, their attacks wouldn't affect the werewolf. So they decided to ignore it and focus on taking out Toko. Not the best strategy, but it was all the two of them could come up with. But they had been thrown a curveball. Toko had the upper hand, so she was reluctant to use the beast. Aoko wasn't about to let this opportunity go to waste. By distracting her with the sibling banter, she would tell things before the werewolf even showed up.
じゃあ、今度はこっちの番ね。どう？結界の張り直しは進んでる？
まさか、昨日の今日よ。まだ手をつけてもいない。せいてはことを仕損じる。大体、私の目的は霊脈の奥にあるもので、結界そのものじゃない。張り直しは予定にないさ。まあ、土地を暴くなんて面倒な真似をするより、お前を暴いた方が早いのかもしれないが。
やっぱりそれが目的だったのね。ならなおのこと、あんたを魔法使いにするわけにはいかないわ。
Aoko's blue eyes burned brightly with the fiery fighting spirit. Even though her sister was ready to pounce, Toko remained motionless but for her mouth, which twisted into a smirk.
魔法使いか。確かにまだ執着はあるね。私には移植されなかった魔術刻印と青崎の伝える魔法の正体。だがもういいよ。惜しくはあるが、 到達すればどちらも自分で用意できる。それとも今ここで私のために魔法の正体を見せてくれるのかい、青子。
Yeah, she's really baiting her to use the true magic. Toko's words came out flatly, but her eyes mocked her sister. It was true, however, that if Aoko wanted to defeat Toko, her best chance would be to use this mysterious true magic. The only problem was that she couldn't. If she could, she would have used it to avoid being mauled last night. Aoko Aozaki couldn't use true magic. Toko believed she needed to fulfill some kind of condition. The protection of their grandfather placed on the formulae was to prohibit miracles from being easily realized. However, that wasn't because he was concerned about the human world. It was no exaggeration to say that he felt nothing if magic leveled the entire city. The truth was, true magic never had any conditions. Aoko was being held back by trauma. Oh. These 5 privileges, the only powers of their kind, were bound by cognitive seals. That's why Toko looked down on her naive little sister. Oh, so maybe Aoko used the true magic on the cats that time, or that intro cutscene where it said I think she brought something back to life. I always had this suspicion that it was, well, Sojiro for some reason, because that's why he would be special in some way. But I don't think that actually makes too much sense in the grand scheme of things. But something clearly happened in the beginning, the prologue. So weak, a body incapable of handling magic could be cut down with a mere sword. Ako knew that better than anyone else, which is why she couldn't forgive her sister's ridicule. Just try using true magic, huh? A pathetic taunt. If that was how she wanted to play, then so be it.
ええ、お望みとあらばね。
Okay, you know, this might be a weird spot, but like, I don't want to get too into the fight yet. So like, the fight's just about to begin. I'm gonna end it here because there was a lot of good moments with Sojiro, and I want that to be real, like the meat of the episode. And the next time will be the actual fight, kind of like how I stopped in Alice and Toko's fight in a really awkward spot. But yeah, I still don't really know what to think of the father too much, Father Eri. But so far, at the very least, he's sus, but he's also very good. He's done some good moves. Like, he's consoled Sojiro to make him realize what he was missing. He also, like, really tried to help Aoko and Alice by, you know, pulling off this plan to delay him. But he also didn't stop Sojiro from going. But I just can't help but feel like he's kind of sus in some way. I don't know how they're gonna get around this werewolf, to be honest. Because, like, it seems like it's gonna be super duper... Like, it counters everything that they're gonna do. And Toko is really trying to bait out this true magic to see if, I guess if Beowulf can take it out, because Beowulf is some kind of ridiculous mystic thing. As a golden... I was gonna say vampire by accident. Golden werewolf. But Alice seems like she's not going to be too useful, since I think she still has a poison in her body. And I think she said she was relying on the mirror. But she also has that fog beast. I don't know if she can use that. Maybe it would be too much magic. But actually we haven't really seen what the mirror could do yet. Maybe we'll see it soon? I'm not quite sure. Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. And it seems like Sojiro is going to come into this fight sooner or later. Like he said before, I don't know what he's going to do if he joins this fight, because all he's gonna be is like an extra target. So he could be like a distraction of some sort, maybe, but I can't really see him doing anything significant. I don't know. Aoko did say maybe normal non-magic attacks could do something against the Mystic, because the Mystics, the Golden Wolf, his like specialty is destroying mystics. But in that case, he's still a goddamn giant ass wolf. And Sojiro was already afraid of dogs and things like that because he had scars from them. And now I think about it, we still haven't seen the scars on his neck yet. Maybe that'll be answered eventually, but it seems like I think this is gonna be like either the last chapter or the second to last chapter. I might have to look up the time to see how many episodes will be left. I'm sure there's gonna be like some kind of side story or something at the end, and I'm definitely gonna do it because I'm enjoying this a lot. But we'll have to see what else, you know, happens next time. And until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!